Alice Gets Stung is not too bad, though I do feel like it got off to a great start and then kind of became a little less interesting. This is an Alice Comedies from 1925, directed, of course, by Walt Disney, with Virginia Davis as Alice. And I have to say, this beginning was great. Julius is chasing after this rabbit, and it seems like he's going to get the better of the rabbit, and the rabbit uses some emotional manipulation on him, making Julius think of his poor baby rabbits at home. But ultimately, it looks like the rabbit might get the better of Julius, but can Alice come along and help Julius at the right time? I'm not going to answer that question, but I will say I found it to be quite delightful and a lot of fun. Once that part of the narrative moves on, we have various other animals involved, animals playing instruments, we have bears, and the whole stung aspect involves obviously little buzzy insects. Are bees insects? I had to Google that. Yes, bees are winged insects. I don't know if that's just something I've temporarily forgotten, but yeah, they are apparently technically classed as insects. This is completely irrelevant to the episode. After the rabbit aspect moved on, yeah, we have more to look at. The animation is maybe a little bit busier, a little bit more engaging, and we get a lot more of Alice after that point. I just felt like it wasn't that interesting and it wasn't that fascinating, and honestly, I didn't really love the second half of it. So, really great start. I'd say maybe the first 2 minutes are actually brilliant, really well animated, really great pacing, very funny, really engaging. And then the main narrative kicks in, and honestly, I didn't really love it. It's not bad as such. There are certainly Alice comedies that are less engaging and indeed incorporate Alice less. A lot of the cartoons, particularly as you go further into them in terms of the timeline, are more Julius comedies with a tiny sprinkling of Alice. This one looked like that was going to be the case, but once it got going, Alice was in it a little bit more. The actual live action and animation blend is great. It's always really interesting when Alice actually interacts with things that are animated. For example, picking up an animated object, because it's really cleverly done. If you look at the time, the 20s, really great use of technology, what limited technology they had, and this definitely comes across here. So it's not all bad. It's not a terrible cartoon, and it's not a terrible incorporation of the live action elements. But I feel like it got off to a great start and kind of just went downhill from there. Had that beginning, not been included, not been part of it, then I would have found it to be a pretty mediocre cartoon. But the beginning meant that it was actually pretty good. So Alice Gets Stung is worth watching if you're a fan of the Alice comedies, but by no means would it be the first one I recommend.